Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show. Meet the trusted experts who will give you straight answers and will help guide you on the path of later life care. Now, here's your host, founder, caregiver, and CEO, Suzanne Newman.
And welcome back, everyone, to the Answers for Elders radio network with Rebecca Bomann from SASH Services. And we are talking about emotional family dynamics that go on during times of change. And most certainly, if you're a part of a family and have been listening to Sour, you're learning a lot about how family dynamics can play through different personality types. And maybe you've even seen yourself in a few of these scenarios or descriptions. And it's also a really good thing, I think, for all of us to encourage, how do we, number one, if we fit one of these descriptions, how are we perceived amongst each other? And I think there's so many things that we can learn from this. And Rebecca, so thank you so much for kind of summarizing this. So we're in our last segment. We've talked about the different family dynamics. I'm curious, and I know you're going to talk now this hour, the difference between an only child and multiple siblings. And that's a whole other piece of this, isn't it?
It really is. And I think both groups envy each other. And so I see this over and over again, where in a family with multiple siblings, and of course, as the real estate broker, I'm working with all the siblings that are involved and all of their spouses and everyone. Mm-hmm. And they'll say, oh my gosh, this is so complicated having 8 people, all with different opinions, all, who want different things for mom. 8 people want her to go live in 8 different places. I wish that I was an only child and I could just make up my mind. Yeah. Make the decisions for her and not have anyone to argue with over it, not have any armchair quarterbacks telling me what to do. And then I hear from only children who basically have 100% of the responsibility on their shoulders to handle everything. They are the financial POA. They're the health POA. They're managing the care. They're driving mom or dad to doctor's appointments. They're figuring things out. And they say, gosh, this is when I wish I had siblings, because then I could delegate some of these responsibilities. It wouldn't just be on me. Yeah. And it's fun because, the grass is always greener. And so these two groups look at each other and wish that they were in each other's shoes. Now, of course, there's pros and cons to both. And when you are in a family that's really communicative and people help each other and cooperate, that is a huge asset. It can also be very frustrating to be the devoted advocate in a big family and have 8 armchair quarterbacks telling you what to do. And so True. When I talk to only children and they, talk about how they wish they had siblings, often I'll say to the only children, you know what? You're actually in a really enviable position. Yes, it's a lot. Yes, there's a lot of responsibility on your shoulders, but you don't have anyone second guessing you, judging you, telling you what you should or shouldn't do, making you feel bad. And so, it can really be a benefit to be an only child.
You're not getting in arguments over, other people's opinions when they don't know what they're doing. So absolutely true.
Right. Who does the roll top desk go to? Big fights ensue. And so there are different dynamics, but whether you're in a big family with a lot of siblings or you're an only child, you still need support around you. You need positive support. You need guidance. You need help. You need people that affirm you and validate you, because you're in a really important role. And your job is very significant in the life of your senior loved one. And so no matter what kind of dynamic you're coming from, if you don't have support, seek it out and set it up in a structure around you so that you have all the help you need. And that kind of segues into our last topic, isn't it, Suzanne, about being a caregiver. And if you are a caregiver, Suzanne and I just want to really emphasize to you, you've got to get breaks. You've got to have balance. You've got to have boundaries. Don't fall into that super easy, slippery slope of being everything to that senior loved one until there's really nothing left of you.
Right. I always tell caregivers, the fact that you think you're not burned out doesn't mean you don't need to take a break. And that's one of the things. It's much more difficult once you burn out to get yourself refreshed. It's better that you take a me day.
Yes.
If it's once a week, if it's an afternoon a week, if it's something, make sure that you set a time for you. And I think part of that is setting healthy boundaries with mom or dad. And we've talked about this before. I've talked about this to ad nauseum, but it keeps coming up. I know that I frequent several caregiver groups on Facebook, and the number one thing is you can't give to somebody from an empty vessel. You just can't do it. And this is how many times I hear the desperation in people's voices of, I can't do this and I can't, and my mom expects me to do this. And you know what? Every single thing you do is a choice. You have to understand that. And that, I think, is the most important thing about all this.
Yes, because what good will you be to your mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or uncle or auntie in 4 months when you're completely burned out? And I think a lot of caregivers feel like they shouldn't even take a vacation. They feel guilty for taking time off. They feel judged by other people if they look like they're having fun doing something else in their life, taking the trip. There should be no apology for going and having those refreshments to your soul, to your body, to sleep. And that's where we go back to the theme where we started, where you need to build a team of professionals and helpers around you so you have someone to call. And a lot of assisted living communities, retirement communities have what they call respite care. I didn't know about this when I was a caregiver. A lot of families don't know about this, but you can just have mom or dad stay in a retirement community just for 7 days.
Yep.
And they've got people there. There's 3 squares a day. There's, people there to take care of them. There's a little bit of an expense to being there, but then you don't feel like you're leaving mom alone in her home for those 7 days.
Right. And I think that's the thing. It's understanding that no matter how important that person's care is on your shoulders, caring for yourself has to come number one. And that's the thing I think that people that are caregivers often forget. They put themselves last, which is nuts. It's like you have to understand that there are people, that depend on you, but if you are not dependable to yourself, you can't be dependable to anybody else.
And if you're in a family where you've been asking for help from your siblings, you've been asking for financial assistance to be able to have these breaks, and you're not getting it, then just go outside and build a different kind of village of support for yourself. There's no sense in expecting something from family that aren't willing to give it. And that's a hard realization to come to, is that devoted advocate going, got it. So you're never going to give me a break. And so instead of just resigning yourself to that, start looking for home care, for respite care, for other kinds of professional assistance in the situation. And if there's not the resources, to pay for it in cash, there's a lot of community resources. There's nonprofits, there's government assistance. I didn't even know, Suzanne, my grandfather being a veteran, he qualified for so many services.
Yes, for aid attendance. Yes.
We never took advantage of it. We were paying out of pocket for home care for him.
Oh my goodness.
We could have had that. And I could have had a lot more care and support for me than I even knew was possible. I thought everything I get, I have to pay with my little nickels. And I didn't have very many as a 25-year-old. So I sort of preach this to families is get help, get a team around you, get professionals around you. If it's not your family, build other folks so that you don't burn out and you're here for the long run.
And I'm going to, throw in a little bit of a side note too. Make your loved one's physician your advocate too.
Yes.
One of the things that I used to do what I learned later on when I was caregiving is when my mom, when I was taking care of her and going to doctor visits with her,
Sure.
I would write a note to the doctor of anything that I had a concern about. I would put it in a white envelope. And when I checked my mom in, I would hand that envelope and the check-in. My mom had no idea what I was giving, nor did she care. But the thing is that the doctor then did all the stuff like saying, I think we need to do this and this. And I could sit there quiet and not get in the middle of it. But I began a great dialogue. So when there was, care, home health that needed to happen, when there was different physical therapy issues or things like that, dietitians that need to come forward, the doctor could recommend them and Medicare paid for them.
So smart. That's such a great recommendation, Suzanne.
Yeah.
And that really aligns with everything that we're saying, which is that you were reaching out for help outside of you and getting professionals around you to support you in your position. So even if siblings weren't there, to help, you could still take care of your mom's needs, but you weren't doing it alone. You were getting helpers around you, which is so important.
And a doctor's order that says you need assisted living, that takes the burden off of you. So
don't be the bad guy.
Yeah, I don't have to be. So that's the point. It's okay. It does take a village. It takes people to come around you to help you. No, this is not a one-person job. And I think this is what we're saying.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So Rebecca, how do we reach you? One last time.
Families can learn more about our services at sashservices.com or sashrealty.com. And thank you so much, Suzanne, for having me on your show.
Rebecca, you are the best. And I love having you on. I love our dialogue. And, there's never a time that we're not on the same page, which is so great. And it's always nice to have a partner in so many things that are, who's in it for the right reasons, that's there to advocate for our families and our seniors and our loved ones. And, to each and every one of you that are listening to this broadcast, it's very difficult in a time of transition. And certainly something like this, it's nice to know that there are people out there like Rebecca that will be there for you and that will help hold your hand through the process, because this is not an easy thing to go through alone. So thank you so much, Rebecca.
Thank you.
And to each and every one of you, until next time, be good to each other. We at Answers for Elders thank you for listening. Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.